Hello everyone. Let us start with understanding what web development is. So the very first thing which comes to our mind is why should we learn web development? Reasons for learning web development are: first, you can use web development to showcase your work or projects. Second is for your job purpose. If you showcase your work on the website, you can easily show it to recruiters, and recruiters can connect more with the work you do. Next, you can add a very valuable skill, which is web development, in your resume, which will again help you for your job purpose. And next is that it sounds cool. If you are able to do web development, you can showcase your projects and it looks very cool to everyone you show your projects to. So let us understand how exactly does the web work. So first of all, the user asks for the information to the browser. So when you open a browser and you type a URL, you are requesting some information from the browser. Then the browser requests something from the server. The server then processes the requests based on a set of rules. Once the server processes everything, the server returns the information. Then, after getting this information, the browser displays the information it got from the server. So this is how the web works. Whenever you open a browser, you type in a web address. Why do we need to use web addresses? Because every computer has a specific name. Now, if you want to access a specific website, you have to specify that name of the computer which holds all the information about your website. Now, the name of a website or the server is the IP address, which is not human readable. It's very hard to remember the IP address of a website. So that is why instead of the IP address, we have the web address. Each web address is connected to a IP address. For example, a web address can look like https www.google.com or facebook.com. So the takeaway is the web address corresponds to an IP address, which is the name of a computer. Let's understand the individual components of a web address. So first, whenever you type a web address, it begins with HTTP or HTTPS. Next, we have a colon and two forward slashes. This is to separate the first part, the HTTPS, and what comes after it. Next, we have quick draw written over here. You can have anything like www or www3 or any other subdomain name after HTTPS or the protocol. After you have the subdomain name, you should use a dot to separate what comes after the subdomain, which is the domain name. So let's have a quick recap of what a web address is made of. So first is the HTTPS, which is called the protocol of a website. HTTP is for Hypertext Transfer Protocol and HTTPS S stands for secure. Next, there is the subdomain name. Each domain name can have infinite number of subdomain names. Over here, Autonise.com is the domain name. A domain name is unique, like Autonise.com, facebook.com, google.com. But there can be infinite number of subdomain names for each domain. So this is what a web address is made of. So the second question comes to our mind, how to get our own domain name and where do we get this from? To get a domain name, you have to lease it out and the typical cost of it is from rupees 500 to 1000. Some very popular domain name companies are domainname.com, GoDaddy, and Google Domains. These companies provide you with the domain name if you pay them some amount. Depending upon the type of domain you want to get, the cost may vary. So these are some of the popular domain name companies. So now that we understand what a web address is, let us break down of what compromises a website. So first of all, there is the structure of a website. What I mean by structure is that inside a website, there are individual components and each of those components are placed in a certain manner. So a website has a structure in which each component comes at a specific location. Next, a website can be thought of as having design and responsiveness. So once we have the structure, we need to add some designs into it to make the website look good. Also, your website should be responsive for different screen sizes. What we mean by a responsiveness is that it should look good and behave differently for different screen sizes. Next, a website must have some logic into it. There are static websites which are used to showcase some fixed information, but most websites have some interaction into them. So if you are creating a chat app, then it has some logic and that also compromises some functionality of the website. So how do we make our own website? Obviously, you will have to code to create your website. So these are the three building blocks of a web page. The first one is HTML, the second one is CSS, and the third one is JavaScript. Let us have a look at each of them and correlate it to the way we broke down the web page earlier. HTML. HTML decides the skeleton of the website and the structure. So, where the components are placed and what type of component it is determined by HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Next comes the CSS. CSS decides the aesthetic look, the colors, the animation, and the responsiveness of a website. So HTML provides you with a structure, whereas CSS adds some design, the aesthetic look, and makes the website responsive. Then there is the JavaScript. JavaScript determines the functionality of a website. For example, when you click a button, you want some action to happen. Maybe you want to pay or go to a next page. That logic is determined by JavaScript. When you send a message, you get back a response, and that too comes inside JavaScript. So, to create a fully functional interactive website, you need the skeleton or the structure, which is the HTML. You need the CSS to add design and responsiveness. And you need to add JavaScript to add the logic to your website. When you have all of this, you have a fully functional interactive website. After you learn HTML, CSS, and JS, you can make any kind of website. So you will be able to create all kinds of website after you are done with HTML. Hello everyone. Today in this module, we are going to learn about HTML. HTML is an acronym for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is the backbone of a web page. All of the web pages and web applications on the web are created using HTML. So what is HTML exactly? HTML consists of a series of elements. These elements tell the browser how to display the content. An element starts with a tag name, a opening tag, the content, and the closing tag. How do we exactly create an element? So, as you can see, the opening tag starts with a less than sign, then the tag name, and then the greater than sign. This consists of the opening tag. After this, there is the element content, which can consist of text or other elements as well. After that, there is the closing tag, which you write by first writing the less than sign, and then a forward slash, the tag name, and then the greater than sign. So this is how you create an HTML element. Let us first create our own page and have a look at how to write your own HTML page. So let us look at the code for writing our first HTML page. Let us try to analyze this line by line. So the first line, which is doc type HTML, what it does is it tells the browser that, hey, this code is of HTML5. HTML has had a very long history and there have been many revisions along the way. Currently, HTML5 is the latest version, and when you specify doctype HTML, the browser understands that this code is the latest of the HTML version. Next is the HTML tag. The HTML element is the root element of an HTML page. All of your content of your web page will come inside the HTML element. Next, there is the head element. The head element contains the meta information about the HTML page. Also, if you want to load some libraries, which should load even before the web page starts to be displayed, then you should put it inside the head tag, because all of the code inside the head tag is executed before the web page starts loading. Next, there is the title tag. The title element specifies a title for the HTML pages. Whatever we write inside the title element goes on the tab of your web page. Next, there is the body element. Whatever you want to display on your web browser, you put it inside the body tag. The body element defines the document's body and is a container for all the visible contents such as headings, paragraphs, and images. Next, there is the h1 element. The h1 element defines a large heading. So, if you are writing some content and you want to put a very large heading on that, then you should use h1. Next, there is the p tag. The p element defines a paragraph. A paragraph starts on a new line and you will be able to see the text inside the paragraph. So this is all the code for writing your first HTML page. To create our HTML code, first we need to create an HTML file. So I have opened a folder. Let's see how to create our HTML file. So in Windows, right click, New, and choose a text document. After that, name the text document anything. Let's say your first HTML code, and change the txt extension to HTML. You might get a warning that if you change a file name extension, the file might become unusable, but that's fine. We want to change it to HTML, so choose yes. Some of you guys might not see the extension, and to see the extension, you have to go to Views, Folder option, change folder and search options, View, and over here you have to choose or uncheck the hide extension for known file types. And once you are done, click OK. After this, you have created your first HTML code. How can we edit our HTML code? Right click on your HTML file. After that, you'll get many options. Go to Open with, choose another app. In this session, I am going to use VS Code, which is my personal choice, but you can use any text editor to write your HTML code, like Sublime Text, Notepad, and any other editor which you like. So I choose Visual Studio Code and I press OK. So this is the Visual Studio Code where you can see we have opened our HTML file, but it's empty right now. So let's start writing our HTML code. But after writing the code, how are we going to view our HTML page? To do that, just double click on this and open it inside a web browser. Or you can use the shortcut and drag your file to a web browser. As you can see, the web page is empty. That is because there is no code written over here. Yeah. So let's start writing our code. So first of all, we specify the doc type to be HTML. As I said earlier, this will ensure that the browser knows that you are writing the code in HTML5 version. After this, we'll have our HTML element. All of the code must go inside the HTML element. Then there is the head. Head specifies the meta information. So we can add title in our head. So let's put the title our first code and let's save this. To check your HTML code, to view it, you need to go to the browser and refresh your page. So now you can see, as we have written our first code over here in the title, you can see the title in the tab. But we are not seeing anything in our content because we have not yet added the body tag. So let's add the body tag. And inside the body tag, we'll put our header. This is my page. So let's put this content and save it. As soon as you save, you won't be able to see the difference in your web page. You need to reload it. So you can see that because we have used the header tag, we can see that the text is very large and in a heading format. If you want to add something after the heading tag, you can use the paragraph tag. This is my paragraph. So I'm going to save this and then reload my page. So you can see that this is my paragraph has been displayed over here. Compared to the header, this is my paragraph is very small and it starts on a new line. So this is how you write your very first HTML code. Some of the observation from writing our first HTML code is that the majority of the tags must be opened and closed. For example, the header tag. So it begins with the opening tab, then the content, and then the closing tag. I have mentioned majority because some tags only have the opening tag and need not be closed. We'll look at them in the later sections. The next observation is that for multiple tags, the tags must be closed in the order in which they were opened. For example, as you can see over here, the HTML tag opens and closes. Then we write the head tag and the body tag, which also must be closed. And inside the head tag, there is the title tag. Inside the body, there is the header and the paragraph. So all of these tags must be closed in the order they were opened. Now, let us have a look at the commonly used tags in HTML. So first, let us have a look at the heading type. First level heading. So this is the highest form of heading or the biggest heading which we can use in HTML. To create this heading, you use the code h1 and you write the content inside it and you close it by using the closing tag. We have already used it when creating our first HTML code. Apart from using the h1 tag, there are multiple header tags. There is the second level heading, which you can write by using the h2 tag, and it will be slightly smaller than the first level heading. Similarly, there are the third level heading, the fourth level heading, and the fifth level heading, and the sixth level heading. So there are a total of 6 stages of a heading tag. You can use them to provide a heading for your subtopics as well. After having the look at the heading tag, let's have a look at the paragraph tag. The paragraph tag or the P tag defines a paragraph. So let us have a look at how this code will look in a browser. So as you can see, we have the first paragraph which has the content. This is the first paragraph and it is displayed over here in the first paragraph. After that, a new line is there in which the contents of the second paragraph is displayed. Even though we have a new line after each line, which is this is the first paragraph, this is the second paragraph, HTML does not display the new lines. Only when there is a p tag is a new line added by HTML. So now that we have had a look at the heading tag and the paragraph tag, let's have a look at other key elements. So the first one is the B tag, which highlights important information. Over here, B stands for bold. Next, there is the strong tag. It is very similar to bold and is used to highlight key text, The only major importance is that a browser can decide, let's say in the future, to distinguish between B and strong. And a strong might mean that you want the user to hear an audio when you click on the text. So if you use a strong, in the future, a browser might convert the text written inside the strong element to an audio. But currently, all browsers, they just convert your text to bold when you use the strong tag. Next, there is the I tag, which creates an italic text. Next, there is the mark tag, which highlights the background of the text. The strike tag is used to place a horizontal line through the middle of your text, giving it a strike-through view. The U tag is used to underline a text or put a horizontal line below the text. So, after having a look at some of the commonly used tags, let's have a look at the image tag. The image tag is used to embed an image in the HTML page. So, if you embed an image, you will see your web page like this. Let's see how to do this. The code to do this is shown over here. So first, we begin with the image tag name. Inside the tag name, you have multiple attributes. Over here, you can see the source attribute, the alt attribute, the height, and the width attribute. Let's see what the source attribute is. Inside the source attribute, you put the source of your image or the path of your image. So you have to specify the address where your image is inside the source attribute. Next, there is the alt attribute or the alternative description. So let's say your image is corrupt or your server is currently down and you're not able to fetch the image. At that moment, your image would look very bad. To take care of these scenarios, you can add a description of the image which will be displayed if your image is not rendered properly. Next, the height and the width are self-explanatory. They specify the dimensions of the image on the page. So, height will specify the height of the image and width will specify the width of the image. As you have noticed, or you might have noticed, image does not have an end tag. So it just has an opening tag and no closing tag. Next is the anchor tag. An anchor tag is used to link from one page to another. The code to do this is as follows. So you write the A, which stands for the anchor tag. Then there is the href attribute. Href is the link which the anchor will provide to. So inside href over here, we can add any website, a link to our own website or to an external website as well. After you close the opening tab, you can add the content over which if you click, you will be redirected to the link provided in the href attribute. After you have put the content, you have to put the closing tag. So let's see an example of this link tag. When you check on Google and you search over there, you can notice that a blue text is displayed. When you click this blue text, you will be redirected to a website. This happens because this text is enclosed by the anchor tag. So this is one example where we use anchor tag. Next, let's have a look at the list tag. As the name suggests, list tag is used to create a list. There are multiple kinds of list which you can create. First is the unordered list. An unordered list will have just bullet points and will not contain any numbers. If you write this code, it will have bullet points. So the first point will be this is, and the second point will be an unordered list. Next, another type of list is the ordered list. An ordered list has numbers to denote each item. So when you write this code, it will display a number in front of an item and another item. So the major difference in creating an unordered list and an ordered list is that for an unordered list, you begin with the UL, and while creating each item, you start with the li tag. While creating an ordered list, you start with the OL tag, and similarly, you put the li tag to denote each item. So this is it about the list tag. There is one more list which is used a bit sparingly, but let's cover it over here. So another type of list is the definition list. You can use this definition list to denote item and its value. So if you use this code, the key item will come on the left hand side and the definition you will be see with the tab spacing. We'll have a look at all of these after this session is over. Next, let us have a look at the table tag. The table tag defines an HTML table. The HTML table consists of one table element and one or more tr, th, and td elements. The tr tag stands for table row, th stands for table heading, and td stands for table data. So this is one example code. First, we have the table element. Next, we have two table rows. Inside the first table row, we have the table header, which is month, and another table header, which is savings. Inside the second row, we have table data, which is January, corresponding to the first month, and another table data, which is $100, corresponding to the second column, savings. Let us see how this will look in a HTML web browser. So, as you can see, the first table row contains the table heading, which is month, and another table heading, which is savings. The second row will contain the table data, which is January, and another table data, which is $100. Mind you, your table would not look this fancy because we are not yet using CSS. In HTML, the table will look very basic, but you can style your HTML using CSS, which we'll learn later. So now that the table tag has been done, let's have a look at the input tag. As the name suggests, the input tag specifies an input field where the user can enter data. Now, there are various kinds of data which you might need from a user. It can be text, it can be password, or you might want the user to upload a file or an image. So, there are different kinds of input to do that. As you can see, we begin with the input element. Then we have a type attribute inside which if we specify text, then the input tag will correspond to a text field where you can enter any text. Similarly, if you choose the type password, when you type inside the text, you will only see bullet points and not the text. When you use input type equal to file, you will see the option to upload a file, which you can then further send it to the server. You have many other types for input, but these are the three types which are commonly used. Next is the text area tag. The input tag is used to specify one line inputs of text. But if you want to have multiple lines of text, you use the text area. The code to write a text area is as follows. First, we write the text area tag name. Then we have the attribute rows. We can specify the number of rows, which I have done over here by specifying 4. And you can specify the width of your text area by using the columns attribute. Inside it, you can put some predefined text, or once you create the text area, you can manually enter whatever text you want. Next is the button tag. The button tag defines a clickable button. So as you can see over here, this is the way in which you write a button. First, there is the button tag. Next, there is the type, which specifies what is the action of the button. There can be many types like submit. Over here, we have kept the basic type. After the opening tag is over, you can specify the content which will be showcased inside the button, and then you close it with the closing tag. Inside a button element, you can put text and even tags like the I tag, the B bold tag, the strong, the break tag, or the image tag. We'll have a look at what BR does in the upcoming slides. So the BR tag or the break tag. The BR tag inserts a single line break. So let's say you have a paragraph, but inside the paragraph, you still want multiple new lines to be present. The way to do this is using the BR tag. Let's see the output of this code, how it will look in a browser. So as you can see, after two fours, there is a new line. If you had not added a BR tag, all of this code would have come in the same line, which is not desirable. Next, there is the div tag. The div tag defines a division or a section in the HTML document. We'll be using a lot of div tag when writing an HTML code. The div tag is used like this. It defines a section of your code. Inside the div tag, you can put any of your other elements. There can be distinguishing divs or divisions. So there can be a left div, a right division, and you can have divisions in multiple rows as well. We'll have a look at where exactly we can use div in the upcoming slides. Next, there is the span tag. The span tag is an inline container used to mark up a part of a text or a part of a document. Now it might sound a bit confusing, so let me break it down for you. What it effectively means is that there is the p tag which has some text. Now you want to apply some specific styling or some specific logic to a part of your p content. So the content was my cat has green eyes. But let's say we want to specify green text as a green color. We'll see how to do that in CSS, but you can use the spans tag to provide some styles and change the style of the content inside the tag. The output of this code would look like this. Don't worry if you have not seen this CSS code ever. We'll have a look at them in another session. So, what is the difference between a div and a span tag? Both of them are used to enclose some content. The main difference is that the div tag is a block element, whereas the span tag is an inline element. What do these terms mean? So, an inline element does not start on a new line and it only takes up as much width as necessary, whereas a block element always starts on a new line and takes up the full width available. As is shown in the figure over here, a block element will always take up the entire width of the screen. But an inline element, like the span tag, would only cover the content inside of the element. So if you want to specify some style only for some part of your p tag, you can use the span tag. Or if you want to specify a styling for all of your elements, then you can use the div tag.